York City. The only city one has to be in the whole world will come to you in New York City. I have this practical experience myself. I got to spend Christmas break with Ram Roy and his Harinam party. This Harinam party has been going out, and sometimes it's not such a party as just a person, a Harinam person. Ram Roy has been going out for nearly 365 days straight. On March 25th, he will have been going out for exactly 1 year, every day, no less than 4 hours. Harinam in the streets or the subways of New York. So I got the chance over Christmas break, when the students in Ann Arbor where Jagadguru mentioned most of my preaching is taking place, most of my services there. The students were either in their exam period where they have very little here for bhakti anyway, but during exams forget about it. Or they were out of school altogether, so I took advantage. Ram Roy invited me to come there to New York and join his Harinam. So it's New Year's Eve, and I'm sitting in the Columbus Circle subway, and we're chanting Hare Krishna. And around the corner comes 15 of my closest friends from college. And these friends of mine, we didn't all go to the same school in North Carolina. Actually, they worked in the summer program that I worked in as a college student, which aggregated me with students from 300 other universities. So these were students from Maine and Virginia and South Carolina and Georgia and Maryland, all of them and down the East Coast students, right? So if I had personally myself endeavored to share Krishna consciousness with any one of these souls, it would have taken so many letters written, so many books sent. Practically speaking, I've sent all of them a book and heard nothing in response, right? Maybe a thank you. But of course, there's no reading there. What to speak of chanting, what to speak of joining the Harinam. So there I am sitting in New York City with Ram Roy and 15 of my closest friends from 15 different places all over the country. I'm walking around the corner and we have darshan of the Harinam. They hear the holy name, a few even chant. Never would I have been able to do that in 15 years, trying to individually engage each one of them in Harinam Sankirtan. And by Krishna's mercy, because I was under the shelter of Ram Roy Prabhu and his Harinam, which has snowballed into this huge momentum of mercy. There they were. And also the 8 or so people that I know in New York City, each one of them over the month I was there walked by the Harinam spontaneously, without myself saying, here I am, come see me now. My cousin, 2 close friends from high school, a few acquaintances, all of them came to the Harinam. So I entered Prabhu, who Sachi mentioned, Ram Roy was an intimate associate of, very intimate associate, especially the last 11 years in Vrindavan. Ayendra Prabhu said one should either chant in the Dham or in New York City. Either in the center of spiritual life or the center of material life, right? For your own deliverance or for the deliverance of the fallen souls. Ayendra had a plan. He was going to form a Radha Damodar party, like Tamal Krishna Maharaj had and Vishnu John Maharaj had, and they made so many devotees and it fizzled out after Prabhupada left the planet. So Ayendra was going to rekindle this. But then he went to New York and he said, why go see them all when they'll all come see me here? Why would I ever have to leave this place? So like that, Ayendra said, chant in New York or chant in the Dham. So Ram Roy was very, very despondent after Ayendra left the planet suddenly. Imagine the worst kind of anxiety that a lover would have if their beloved, in the height of in the passion of their romance, one was to leave. This is the anxiety that Ram Roy was feeling after the departure of Ayendra, and is still feeling actually. So for a year he was despondent, not really knowing here or there where to go, why to bother doing anything. His beloved had left. And then, when he was taking the association of the sadhu, which is for sure the conduit by which anything auspicious in our lives can happen, by the association of the realized saints, he was taking the association of the sadhu. The sadhu told him, you should just go on. And of course, we stay Harinam, and we always have that qualifier, just is there now. We're just chanting. We're just going on Sankirtan. We're just doing book distribution. sacrifice in the spiritual world. But the glorification of Krishna and his pastimes and his name and his form, his beauty, that's all going on in the spiritual world eternally. And that has descended in the Harinam Sankirtan movement. Therefore, this Sankirtan is the spiritual world. And so, Rama decided to just go on Sankirtan. And 10 years later, there I was with him, or 10 months later, rather, there I was with him. And it was December 15th in New York City, a Saturday, and we were going to Washington Square Park, where some of you might know the Rath Yatra ends. New York Rath Yatra ends in Washington Square Park. There's a really beautiful quote from George Washington on the big arc, the big entry gate arc at Washington Square Park. Quote by George Washington. It says, I'll have to paraphrase now. I won't say it. You'll have to look it up for yourself. It's very poignant. I want to ruin it. A very poignant quote to have Rath Yatra happening there. So, there we were. And on this particular day, December 15th, there was something called SantaCon going on in New York City. SantaCon, like a convention for Santas, but not just any Santas, drunk Santas. The SantaCon is a bar crawl that was put together by some ambitious NYU students. New York University is very close to Washington Square Park. In fact, Washington Square Park is practically in the center of NYU. So SantaCon was going on. So Santa Clauses, men and women both, I've seen the Santa outfits that the men were wearing, your typical Santa outfit. The women's outfits, I've never seen Santa dressed like that. I hope I never do. But SantaCon was happening. So every half hour, 45 minutes, a wave of happy Santas would come by and dance ecstatically in the Harinam. Right? Dance ecstatically. One day in Ann Arbor, we wanted to do a Damodar program. We wanted to have university students offer a candle to Lord Damodar, but how to get them to do that on a Wednesday? Hey, come here, Westerner, and wave this candle in front of the little boy that we call God. Not going to happen. So we decided to go out on a Friday night, party night, right? When they're in that certain mood of doing things out of the ordinary and having a little fun. And then people offer the Damodar land. So in the same way, these Santas were out there dressed ridiculously, they were intoxicated to one degree or another. So when they came across the Harinam, the normal inhibitions that would prevent them from relishing the nectar of the holy name, they were not there. So dancing, staggering, jumping down, singing. And then something very peculiar happened. After 2.5 hours, again, every 40 minutes or so, because they were on what's called a bar crawl. So you go to different bars and there's different activities at the bars. And it's like a station. Your kids use stations in school, right? Like there's a water table and a sand table and a Play-Doh table and a construction paper table. So the bars, they also have these activities for the children and they go around. So every 40 minutes or so, a wave of Santas would come through. And then one wave, something very peculiar happened. Flowers. Roses, carnations, daisies, 3 particularly, were offered in front of the Mahamantra plaque that Rama puts in front of the Harinam. The mantra word we've seen, it's like carved in my sword. The Lord used to make signs like this. Flowers, and they offered them spontaneously. Nobody said, here's the deity. They didn't know Patram Pushpam, nothing like that. Right? They said, where are these flowers coming from? So a little investigation. 30 feet away from the Harinam is a Sunday feast trash can size bag of cut flowers. Fresh. Like we would offer to Radha Bihari on their garments. Like these flowers. It's a bag full of them. 30 feet from the Harinam. Where it came from. So that day, maybe some of you know, I gave you the their teachers. Just the day after, there was SanKirtan going on, as usual, but there was quite a solemn mood in the rest of the city. Connecticut, Newtown, what was it, Newton? It's only an hour away from the city. So, we realized that Krishna had arranged an opportunity for devotional service. Because many people stop and gawk at Harinam. They're perplexed by it, confused, bewildered. They don't know how to reciprocate, what to do. Why are these people here? Why are they singing the same 3 words over and over again? This is the reaction of most people. Of course, there are those rare souls, special souls, the souls that we're performing the Harinam for, that will sit down and never leave. But most just simply don't know how to approach the Harinam. However, this particular day, Santa Claus left a bag of flowers, right, 30 feet away from the Harinam. And in light of this tragic event that had happened only the day before, and was such a visceral call to people that your body is not permanent, no matter how much you want it to be. The happiness that you experience in this material world, it comes and goes quicker than a bullet can leave a gun. So maybe your life should look a little different. Right? That's what these events do for people. So we began asking the gawkers, of course, they stand what they feel is comfortably enough away, so the devotees won't think, oh, here's somebody that wants to talk to us. So we began approaching them. Would you like to offer a flower? Most would say no right away, or would see me coming with the flower. But then, we're having a vigil in memory of those who lost their lives in yesterday's tragedy. Not a single person didn't take the flower and place it right in front of the matcha board. Not one person did that. Whether they were from Germany or didn't speak English at all, or was like this when I first approached them, or whether they were very happy, smiling, appreciative. Everyone took a flower, placed it in front of the matcha board. Not different from them coming before Radha Kunjali and offering that same flower. Non-different. Krishna's name is non-different. Krishna's deity is non-different. So, this Harinam Sankirtan Yajna allows us to also understand we are not our body. When we see so many people from so many different walks of life, so many different colors of skin, so many different qualities sat down at the very beginning of the Harinam and was playing drum vigorously and on beat, which is rare for somebody to just join the Harinam. 6 hours, the whole Harinam, she was there. There was a 6-hour kirtan after, and during also at the Bhakti Center, one of the temples there in New York, that was going on. She came for the final 2 hours of that kirtan, stayed and watched the pots left over from the feast. And then for the next 3 days before she went back to Chicago for winter break, she was at the learning program and came to every Harinam. Yael, how is she able to do like this? Because she lives in Union Square. Union Square is the place where Ram Roy held his Harinam for no less than 5 months straight before the weather began to get very cold, and then he went underground into the subways. So for 5 months straight, she walked by the Harinam, and every day she's like, what is this going on? And then after a few days, she thought, this is kind of a nice thing going on. And then after a few more days, she said, this is a very nice thing going on. I like that this is happening right outside my front door. And then one day, with nobody preaching, right? No prasadam, she herself decided to sit down and has not left. That is the potency of Harinam. Coming from a faithful Jewish background, pious Jewish girl, and now she wants to move into the Bhakti Center. So Ram Roy is in a situation himself in New York City. I was speaking with him recently. They had the blizzard, right? 3 feet of snow. Still, the Harinam went out. And for the last 2 weeks prior, he had almost no devotees coming to the Harinam because it's really cold. And most people don't like it when it's really cold, as we heard from Shalom Guru. So they forget their duties. They forget to take their bath. They forget to. It's Harinam Sankirtan yajnas that only way for their purification. And that's what they espouse to desire. Therefore, they should go on it. They forget. But that day, where there's 3 feet of snow on the ground, how many people came to this Harinam? 22. Because Krishna reciprocates. And Rama knows that. You do Harinam for 11 months straight, you find out Krishna reciprocates. He sends bags of flowers on Sankirtan Day. He sends Yaels. He sends 22 people in a snowstorm. The power went out in New York City. Hurricane, was it Irene? Hurricane Irene came through. So the devotees were on walking Harinam that day. And every day for 4 days straight. 4 days straight, there was no power in the block of the city that they were doing Harinam. And on one particularly rambunctious point in Harinam on the 4th day, where people were jumping and dancing with the devotees, and the kirtan was peaking. Suddenly, lights came on. And jaws dropped. Everybody said, you did it! Harimo! The devotees had turned the lights on. These things happen when we go on a Harinam. What are their names? The Jananivas? Please forgive me. 2 pujaris in Mayapur have, for a very long time, never left Mayapur Dham. I think one still has not, but the other twin brother, he has left. Does some preaching now. Pujaris. They were in Australia when they met Sri Prabhupada, and they said, we're looking for God. Prabhupada said, you should not look for God. You should act in such a way that God looks for you. And right then and there they surrendered. Prabhupada's they go to Mayapur. And their story is worthy of so many more classes. Point being, how can we most quickly be noticed by God? So we have Prabhupada's example to take shelter of. He is the senior devotee. That if there's no other association available, living sadhu is preferable. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj wrote after the departure of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, whose many followers were thinking, okay, now Maharaj has left, we can simply take shelter of his books, we don't need to take association from sadhus anymore. He wrote that this is a great fallacy. It's essential that we have the association of living sadhus to cut the ties. Otherwise, even the absolute truth can be perverted in so many ways to accommodate our sense gratification. Unless the living sadhu is there to check us. So we seek the association of the living sadhu. And it's worth going to New York for. It's worth going to Mayapur for, Vrindavan for. There's Sadhu Sangha retreat with Indradumna Maharaj and Satchidananda Swami and so many others going. Is it Houston again this year? In May. Austin, Texas. If you can go, go. Festival of Inspiration, go. And before this class, I practically begged you, Luke Shortbrook, to give the class. So that you all could hear from a real sadhu, but he was washing pots. So that's preferable, but the example of the acharyas is still there. And if we have a modicum of intelligence, we at least know the right thing to do. And then if we have some sincerity, we will do it, despite not wanting to take the cold shower, right? Despite not wanting to be in the kitchen just because it's 100 degrees out. We don't want to go out in the cold and chant Hare Krishna. We don't want to go out in the warm weather and chant Hare Krishna. Because of what people might think of us, what people might say about us. My boss might see me, my friends might see me. They might, so many considerations are there. But all those are temporary considerations of the body. So if we have a modicum of sincerity in our spiritual life, then we'll rise above that. The action, Chintamani Mata, who's now, she's at Kumbh Mela with Shinananda Prabhu, and they'll do a nice tour service in India. She taught me that action precedes feeling in Krishna consciousness. She gives the example of Mangalarti. Who has ever attended a Mangalarti? Who has planned the night before, I'm going to attend Mangalarti? Right? And you're very excited. Mangalarti, see the deities first thing, great way to start the day. But then alarm rings. 3:30, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever you had to set your alarm. Right? And you calculated it the night before. 7 minutes for shower, get the kids ready. You're counting by the minute how much time you have in the bed before you have to get out, absolutely. And then alarm rings. The first, you're not hopping out of bed, Mangal Arti, Ki Jai. No. Immediately the alarm rings were rationalizing, well, Mangal Arti is also tomorrow. These will be there at Darshanarti, right? Action precedes feeling. So there's been days we've gotten out of the bed. There's been days we've stayed in the bed. But for sure, if you were there at 4:45, when Akanta Prabhu blows the conch and opens the curtains, and you see the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, the beaming face of Kunja Vihari, then you're not thinking about your soft warm bed anymore, or the long drive there and back. Those things go away. So in the same way, we have to take shelter of the Harinam like that. We have to understand that the mind will and this is the same for any devotional service we have, whether we're making flower garlands or preparing yoga or organizing a festival, but especially the Harinam. Right? We see how many are actually willing to perform this Yuga Dharma. So how many rationalizations must come? Because the Shastras are emphatic about this point of what to do for our purification. Very simple. You only see so few coming, so we must know the mind is putting before these devotees so many rationalizations about why it's not necessary, about why japa is sufficient, about like that. So if we want to, we have to overcome these things. We have to accept this. The mind will offer this. In this second chapter only, there's a nice verse in chant the Sanskrit for it. But text 7. Yes. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. So all the time, in our devotional life, but especially in regards to the Harinam, the mind will propose some reason why it's not necessary that we go. It won't be a very appealing reason. Prabhu, it's negative 17 degrees outside. It's a pretty good reason. It's going on. So many others will be there. Prabhu, there's some other services like that. Prabhupada wrote one letter. This is a very important letter for us. He referenced, I won't use the name. One authority was keeping one disciple doing some service. It's all Krishna's service, right? Prabhupada said, I couldn't stand to see this young boy who's so intelligent was rotting away at the typewriter. Rotting away at the typewriter. Now the typing service is necessary and someone will do, but an intelligent young man in the prime of his life, good-looking American boy, doesn't belong behind the typewriter. You're the most, each one of you were born in India and you made it here to America. You have a determination where you want it. Right? Everybody in your country wanted to be where you are now. That doesn't happen by chance. And so, we have to approach our devotional life with this seriousness. We have to understand the process by which we will become purified most quickly, most expediently. It is the Harinam Sankirtan. And the mind will propose so many reasons why we shouldn't go. Why does the mind do that? Because the mind wants to exist. And the mind won't exist if we properly execute what we know. The mind will no longer be after we leave this body. If we understand the appearance and activities of Krishna, Janma Karma Chamaya, if we understand that Krishna is non-different from his holy name, and that in this Kali Yuga there is nowhere Krishna belongs. He doesn't belong anywhere in this Kali Yuga. There's no cleanliness, there's no mercy, there's no austerity, there's no place fit for Krishna. Yet he is so merciful, he is accepted that he will go anywhere and his devotee desires him to be in the form of his holy name. If we understand this, accept, appreciate, and take advantage of it, we will go back to